former Houston Astros president and executive producer of the new film Facing Nolan. It is Reid Ryan. Good afternoon, sir.
Guys, good to be here today. Excited about this.
Now, the film that's coming out, a lot of people already got the opportunity to see it because, with all due respect to the Rangers, it felt like maybe that was the whole reason that we sold out the ballpark the other day. What does that mean to you that, like, still to this day, there's not only enough people that would want to see this movie made, but as soon as you find out it's available, bam, sell out at the ballpark?
You know, I told my dad, just kidding with him, I go, you're still selling out the place, man. You know, it's amazing. But look, I think it was everything. It was the anniversary of the 7th no-hitter. It was the Braves in town. It was obviously the movie, which was a nice value add for the fans. And it was just a very special day. President Bush was there and a lot of the guys that played back in the day. And it was just a really cool environment last Sunday.
Reid, when did you and maybe your mother and the family decide, let's make a documentary on Dad's somewhat career life?
Yeah, Mike. So, over the years, we've had a lot of people, pitch us, stories and the ability to have access to him to do one of these things. And it's not in his nature. He just passed. And so when I left the Astros at the end of 2020, my brother goes, hey, man, we've had a bunch of these, guys come and visit with us, send us pitches. You should pick this up. And so I kind of read through them and I found one that was really interesting because to really connect with my dad, you've got to be a Texan or you got to be a baseball player. You got to have some connection or he just, kind of puts up the wall. And the producer, Russell Groves, was from just outside of Fort Worth, and Bradley Jackson had grown up in Houston. And so they were Texans, both went to UT, and they had this love affair with the Rangers and the Astros. And so I said, look, these are guys that know the story. Let's take the meeting. And I met with them. Loved them, went to my dad, and he goes, nope, no way, not doing it. So I ended up going to my mom, and she goes, oh, I'll make him do it. And sure enough, she did. And, here we are. It's great.
That's and I think the great thing about it is there always has been so much mystique around him, the legend that he is and everything. And then kind of, I remember being a kid and I was like 7 years old. We're at the stadium and I tried starting a "We Want Nolan" chant. And my dad's like, he's a starting pitcher. And he had to explain that all to me and everything. And with all that kind of mystique, I argue with my co-host Kevin here. I'm throwing you under the bus now. That he's one, he belongs on that Mount Rushmore. And there's always one argument that comes back is no Cy Young. And that was included in this documentary. And I was kind of curious. I didn't know that story of of how he lost it, who he lost it to, and everything that he deserved it for that season. And I kind of was wondering, is that how, hey, we can tell this part of this story too, so people know?
Well, we wanted this to be really true to life, and you got to have conflict to have a good, story documentary. And he lacked the conflict of broke, homeless, living under a bridge, thank God. Yeah. But there was a lot of conflict around where do you rank him? And that's part of the film. And look, it sucks that he never won a Cy Young. 73, it's pretty hard. 2 no-hitters. You break the all-time strikeout record. You win 21, 22 games. But the reality was, in California with the Angels, they were a last-place team. None of the games were on TV. People on the East Coast weren't staying up to watch. And in a lot of ways, media, especially in that era of beat writers, they pretty much knew their own teams and they weren't going to go out of their way to follow other people. And so he had the West Coast vote, but you know how it is. It's politics. He didn't have the East Coast and didn't have the Midwest. And then in the 80s with the Astros, he had a phenomenal year. And we talk about it with the 100-pitch limit that they put on him at the time, and he was just getting going at 100 pitches. So he ended up 8-16, terrible record, no run support, but led the league in ERA, opponent's batting average, and strikeouts. So his metrics were off the chart, and he got second that year. So it is what it is. That's what's so amazing about Rogers, that he's got 7. You got to be in the right city at the right time and have the right year. And unfortunately, my dad never was able to get one.
Now, we're talking, and we're getting into some more specifics in just a second about the movie or the documentary Facing Nolan. But before we get to that, Corey knows the only way I decide whether or not I watch a movie is what does Rotten Tomatoes tell me to think about this documentary. So I went to Rotten Tomatoes, 100% on 21 reviews thus far. Yeah. So the people have spoken and they like your movie.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you what's neat about the film, and Bradley Jackson, the director, really put a beautiful story together. If you're a diehard baseball fan, we have that. You know, my dad went from making $7,000 in the major leagues and having to work in the offseason after he won the World Series to being the game's first $1 million player. And you sort of, it's a time capsule of all our lives, and you see the progression of sport. You know, today it's guys want to be, you know, movie stars, you know, CEOs, media moguls, and be players at the same time. Back then, you know, my dad just wanted to not have to pump gas in the offseason, to be honest. And so you've got that story, but really what you have is, you know, my dad's career was full of self-doubt. Anybody that's ever played, and especially those at the big league, wonder, do I belong? Am I good enough? And he thought about quitting several times. And my mom really, you know, being an athlete herself, you know, kept him focused and was, you know, the secret sauce. And their relationship for 55 years being married, it's really a love story. And so I think why the Rotten Tomatoes reviews have been so good is whether you're a baseball fan or you're somebody that's just looking for a good story, there's a lot of them that have all been weaved together in this film.
And a bunch of people are asking how they can watch it. I know May 24th, y'all are going to have like a theater premiere kind of event thing. So talk about that and then tell us how people can watch it after that.
Yeah, correct. So, you know, I'm learning a lot this first go round here in doing this. And so we're going to debut it May 24th across the country, 800 theaters. If you're interested in going, it's facingnolan.com, or you can just Google Facing Nolan, the movie. We really have sold out almost all the theaters in the Metroplex in Houston. So they're adding a whole new wave of theaters, which is really cool. But it's one night only, 7 p.m. And then for the ability to give these theaters that shot, they're going to be the only place that will have it. So we gave the Rangers first, then the theaters coming up on the 24th. And then after that, this summer, we will have more plans that we can unveil at that time. But eventually, this will live on one of the streaming platforms and video on demand. But what I'm finding out is everybody has their exclusive windows, and we're kind of in that right now.
Now, you had all of my baseball cards in this thing. Like it was really cool to see Randy Johnson, George Brett, you know, all these guys pop into this documentary, and they were all telling these great stories, these thoughts about this legendary pitcher. I was kind of curious because Randy Johnson seemed excited to be like part of it. Like he was like talking about his hero. And I was kind of curious, which one of these guys was like the most pumped about being involved in this thing? And what was the response whenever you reached out to him?
Yeah, so it was fun. I picked up the phone, called these guys, and it was neat. I don't know if it's because of COVID or just, you know, everybody having, you know, been locked away, but everybody was very excited to take part. And so to me, we had 20 pounds for a 1 pound bag. I mean, we could have made a 4-parter, and there's so much good stuff that we just had to leave out. The final version is about version number 10, and we played from over 2 hours to down, and it was really hard making some of the cuts. But I think the thing that I enjoyed the most was what Roger Clemens said, because he played 22 years in the big leagues, and he said what it took to play at that level for somebody like Nolan for 27 years, both within your mind and your heart and within your body, and the amount of work that was put into it. Only a few people know how hard that is. And so it was really a tip of the cap from Roger. And that was one of the things that really that touched me, of some of the nice things that people said during the film.
We're talking here with Reid Ryan, and I know your brother Reese also played college baseball. What was it like having Nolan Ryan as your father as you are coming up as a pitcher? And then what was it like maybe him trying to help you learn how to pitch?
Yeah, you know, Mike, growing up with a big leaguer for a dad is just such a huge advantage. You know, I grew up in a major league clubhouse, and it was a blast. I was like every other kid that didn't want to listen to a word my dad said until I got to be about high school age. And I realized, hey, this guy really knows what he's talking about over here. So, it was awesome. It was such a blessing. Luckily, I was a decent player. And, when you have a dad that's a superstar, if you do well, people go, of course, well, it's Nolan Ryan's kid. And if you struggle, they can't wait to say, oh, he's nothing like the old man. But he just made me feel great. He's like, look, you've got a different skill set than I have. You have different gifts than I have. He's like, you're going to have to learn how to pitch backwards and be a different player, a guy that tops out, upper 80s, low 90s. You're not going to be me. And, find somebody that you can mirror your game after. And so it was great. He was a true friend. He was a true mentor. And the years at TCU where he was retired and he got to kind of come over and be the pitching coach for us were probably, it was only one season for me, a couple more for my brother, but it was probably the most fun I've ever had playing baseball because you'd come in and just the tidbits he'd give you in the moment to make adjustments were tremendous.
Would you rather hunt, fish, or ranch with your dad now?
Oh.
I'd rather fish because it's just such a good day spent, So probably that first, yeah.
Is there any truth to the rumor that he tenderizes his steak with a fastball, or is that?
Maybe in the old days.
Okay.
Now he's embarrassed to say he can't throw anymore because he was at the ranch playing catch with my niece because she's taking up softball, and I think he blew his arm out again throwing the softball. So he said, I'm done, no more throwing.
Oh, no.
We'll let the film speak for itself, and I don't have to go prove myself anymore.
Man, outstanding. Love having you on. The movie Facing Nolan. Remember, facingnolan.com, May 24th if you want to see it in theaters, and then it will be out on demand streaming after that. Appreciate your time. Appreciate y'all letting us see this movie ahead of time. Thank you very much, good sir.
All right. You got it, guys. Thanks for the time today. Keep up the good work.